Hi, welcome or welcome back. My name is Haley, also known as Someday Knits, here on YouTube and also on Instagram, and this is my knitting channel. So today's going to be another podcast episode 9, I believe we're on, so almost 10. That's kind of exciting. And I have a lot to get through today. So I'm going to start with finished objects as usual, and then kind of separate whips into old whips and new whips because I've cast on a lot of things lately. So out of what I've finished, I don't have either of them. Hold on. Okay, so there are 2 hats, pretty short and sweet. I have another Hidden Scraps beanie. This is in the baby size. She's so cute. The colors are looking a little funny because it's kind of cloudy out and I'm in front of a lot of windows, but it's definitely more like bluey in person, I would say. The same color inside as my first sample. This is a beanie pattern by me. I called it Hidden Scraps because all the like invisible parts of the beanie are in scrap yarn, so that you can kind of get the most out of your main skein. So this is the second hat I've gotten out of the 2 hanks of this Hedgehog Fibres sock yarn in sugar. So I purchased 200 grams, gotten an adult large, and now a baby size out of it. And it's so cute. You may have already seen this on my Instagram. I made that for my daughter. That pattern is currently in testing, which is crazy to think about. I put out a like mini tester call on my stories because I honestly didn't think anyone would be interested, and people were, so that was really exciting. But it did delay things a little bit. Instead of the pattern coming out on the 26th, I started the test on the 26th, so now it's looking like February 9th for the pattern to actually be released. And I'm thinking I'll also do a tutorial for the channel just for kind of the basic steps for some of the techniques. There's nothing crazy in it, but just to, I guess, provide a little more info, especially if you're newer to knitting and just need a tad bit more help. So we'll see, but that obviously won't be out for a while. And then the next was this, I've been calling it the Broad Street beanie. This is the ribbed beanie that I did in the Gepard Garn Eco Cashmere Vintage in the color dark brown. And I called it the Broad Street beanie because the way that oh, it's so bright. Let's see. The way that I did the decreases reminds me of the top of the Tennessee Aquarium, which is on Broad Street. So I called it the Broad Street beanie, and they're just so fun. I don't really have like a good way of really like showing how all the decreases meet, because I feel like it would be weird to just take a picture of like the top of my head. So I'm not sure, but I love the way it came out. Because of all this going on, I'm not sure how many sizes. There's not a lot of wiggle room in the stitch counts, so I think it's gonna be one of those like small/medium, large/extra large type patterns, which fortunately is a little easier to get away with in hats. But yeah, I haven't quite figured that out, or I may do 2 different gauges on the same stitch counts, just to add a little more options as far as sizing goes. But that's a long-term project. I really designed it for my dad. I made him a Oslo hat out of Bernat velvet because I thought it would be super soft and cozy, but I had to do it on different size needles because of how thick the yarn was, and it was just a disaster. Like, I gave it to him and he said thank you because he's a great dad, but in reality it was a terrible hat. It was a really bad hat, and so I wanted to give him something really nice and really polished. And he wears his hats like flat, I guess, I don't know, like without any extra fabric on the top. So I thought it would be fun to do something really, really nice and intricate with the decreases, just to give it a little more visual interest. So I knit one for me to make sure things were gonna go according to plan and it was actually gonna look good first, and then I let him pick out what color he wants his version in. So that will eventually get knit, but I haven't started it quite yet. And that's all I have. I'm just looking at my notes, but that's all I have out of finished objects. So now we're gonna start with old whips, which should be pretty quick because my cold water pullover has had no progress, so I'm just gonna skip that. And then my Friday night socks have had a teeny tiny bit of progress. One sock's done, but a teeny tiny bit of progress on the leg. I need, let's see, this is how I measure. I need 1, 2, 3, 4 cables on the back of the leg, and I have 1. So 3 more cable rounds to go, and I have transferred it to 9-inch circulars, which I've never tried before. I did purchase some that you may have seen in my Philly yarn shops video, but they were in 2.25, and I had started these socks on 2mm, which is my preferred choice just for like a good fit. So I had to wait for the 2mm size to come to be able to transfer it. And right now it's super finicky, like it's really tiny. I knit continental, so I kind of like move the needle a lot to pick my yarn, if you can see. So it's just kind of finicky. And then I was trying English style, but it's also like, my English is trash, don't laugh at me, I'm aware. But the English is like a little bit easier, I would say, on my hands, but the flow is just not there yet. But I do think all in all this will be a nice skill to have if I can master it, because then you can just flow around without having to slide needles and all that stuff. And as much as I love the look of my Addie Unicorn fixed circulars that I've been using for my socks, they're just not the most practical. The points are really, really dull. So when you're working with like super skinny yarn and then like ribbing and cables, they just aren't that fun. They're not bad or anything, but they're just not my preferred setup. So yeah, once I get a good handle, and look how cute they are. I mean, these are the tiniest little circular needles. These are Chowgu, so you know, best cables ever. Yeah, that was the other thing about the Addies. The plastic cord is just not my favorite, but I will never get rid of them because they're stunning. The pink cord and the unicorn horn, like spirally needles, yes, absolutely. I just wish they were a little sharper, and I wish the cord was metal, but that is a lot to ask for, if I'm being honest. And then my last old whip has actually had a lot of progress, I think, since I've talked about it. And there's a yarn hanging from everywhere on this guy. But it's my mixed, I've just been calling it the mixed rib raglan, like in my notes and stuff, because I don't have a good name for it yet. But it is this, it has like a variety of ribbing with these little cable numbers, and now the body and one sleeve are complete. So I just have the left sleeve left to go. And if you've noticed, I've changed the neckline yet again. I can't settle on what I want. I think the folded version was too thin, but because of the 2x1 ribbing, this is 2x1 for the hems, if it'll focus. So this 2x1, there's not a really good cast off. So if I do it flat, then I have to cast off like kind of normal. I feel like that's the neatest option. This is still live. I didn't cut the yarn, so that's why it's making that gap right there. But yeah, I don't know. So this current version of the neckline, I'm liking the length. I think it's really cute. It's not quite a mock neck when I'm actually wearing it. It sits actually maybe a little bit wider than this. So it's not a mock neck by any means, but it's just super cozy. And I don't know, it's like I like it, but I don't like it. So I'm thinking maybe I will knit it twice this length and fold it over. But for now, I have just left all the yarn still attached, and it's just dangling out of this sleeve, and the ball is like on the floor. It's kind of a hot mess, but I do like how the body turned out. I feel like it's really crisp and neat, and all the ribbing lines up like in the neckline. And yeah, I just like it and hate it at the same time. And I think it's also because the ribbing cinches in and is a weird in between form-fitting and loose. And I know that when I block it, it'll look completely different, but I'm just having a hard time imagining it blocked. So I think that's what's kind of slowed down the momentum I had, because I'm like, do I hate this or do I love it? I'm not sure, but by the next podcast, I will have that last sleeve finished, and then I'll be able to block it and make decisions from there. And I think I may leave this neckline as it is, block it, and then maybe frog it and reknit if I hate it. It's a lot of choices on that, but for the most part, I think my original vision is accomplished, so that's nice. It's not a complete fail by any means. And now for everything I have cast on since we last spoke. I got very cast on happy. Sorry, my project basket is a mess of tangles. So I've just kind of been cast on crazy in general. I was doing so good at knitting monogamously, and I was cranking out projects and everything was fine and good, but then I just kind of started getting bored. When I only had one real option, I would give myself like a large project, and these socks were my backup option, and having only those two options was just boring, not only for me like knitting, but also for my content, because I do create content around my knitting, and I just felt like I didn't have anything to talk about because I was saying the same things over and over, and it was just getting redundant and I was getting bored. So as like good as monogamous knitting sounds, if it's not fun, then I don't want to do it. So I gave myself the freedom to cast on whatever I wanted, and I went crazy. So, and not everything is even knitting. I do have 2 crochet projects, so I'll start there. Out of my 2024 goals, one of them was to make a blanket that was just for me. I make so many blankets and give them all away, so I wanted my perfect blanket, even though I don't even think that's achievable, but something that was really me-centered. And I finally started it, and I've gotten really far. So I'm using the Bernat Forever Fleece Finer in the color Raspberry Ripple on a 7mm crochet hook. And so I made one square, and I basically just kind of sat down and decided, like, how long do I want one complete step to take me. So I just crocheted in a granny square until I was like, this is long enough, I want to stop here. And that ended up being 7 rounds. So this outer row is 7 little granny chunks, granny stitches, I don't know, across. And then and this takes me about 30 minutes. So I knew I wanted to do a join as you go granny square because I don't like sewing and I like really big blankets, so I definitely don't want to do super long seams. And then I kind of just did the math based on that first square, and it gives me about an 8 by 8 inch square. I weighed all my balls because labels lie, and just because it says it's going to be 280, it almost never is. So I added all that up, and one square was about 40 grams, and I just kind of saw how many squares I could make, and then I decided what was my favorite shape of rectangle. So anyway, I did a lot of finagling, and I decided that I wanted a 8 squares by 10 squares blanket, which will give me a like 5.5 foot by 6.5 foot blanket, which is kind of big, especially for like a 1-person blanket. And then with all of that, those 80 squares, I'll have about 400 grams left over for a border, which I may or may not use all of. It's really big, so I decided to start with the, I feel like there's no way to truly fit it on camera, but I started with the edges. So right now I have 8 squares across, and then they're connected in this corner, and then I have 10 squares across, and I think I'm just gonna fill it in as I please, like diagonally. Maybe I'll do another row, who knows. But when all is said and done, the sides of the blanket are going to be really long, and I already know I'm going to get really bored going continuously around, because in granny squares, the corners are kind of where you pick up interest, I guess, or at least where I have that something extra. So the corners are really far apart on the border, and I may only end up doing like 1 or 2 rounds, but to keep myself motivated, this is my planner for the year, but I have put in this little chart. It's glossy, so it might be hard to see, but I have this little dashboard in my planner. This was supposed to be like a priorities section, but I gridded it out. So this is 80 squares, and I've just been marking them off in the placement that I've added them. So like if I put my next square here, I'll mark that one, and so on and so forth. And it's actually keeping me more motivated than I thought. I did make this like a year goal, and it's only January, so I have plenty of time, but I'm already 17 squares in out of 80, so that is not too shabby. And then my second crochet whip is very tiny. My project bags are terrible. This is just a Target bag. Anyway, can you guess what it is? Probably not, right? This is going to be a Butterbun. I'll insert a picture here, but this is a amigurumi, maybe is how you say it, pattern of a bunny with butterfly wings by a lady whose socials are called Projectarian. I love that name. But so yeah, basically I found a picture of the butterfly wings on my Explore page on Instagram, and I just knew I had to have it. And then I started stalking her page and realized that it's like butterfly wings on a bunny, and I was like, even better. So it's originally intended for 3mm needles, no, sorry, 3mm hook, which I don't know where this lady lives, but I've had a really hard time finding that size, so I pivoted greatly. And I may continue to pivot because I'm a sucker for butterflies. I love anything butterfly, but I'm not the biggest fan of bunnies. So I don't know if I'll make the bunny as the body or if I'll put the wings on something else, because the wings are made completely separate and then you sew them on to the animal at the end. So you have a lot of options and you can kind of mix and match with anything you really want to. And she has so much cool stuff. When I was on her site, I also saw this turtle. Try to put a picture in. But it's the cutest little thing, and like the little tortoise body can come out of the shell and it's so colorful. So I went and got both of those because I am making this out of Big Twist Value. As you can see, this is a lot of yarn. This is 380 yards per skein, and I got 7 because that's how many colors are in the butterfly wings. So I have all this yarn only for little butterfly wings and maybe or maybe not a bunny, and it was only $15. Joanne was having like a sale on top of a sale, so I got all 7 of these for $15, like with tax and everything. So I don't feel bad about it, but I did pick up the turtle as well because I thought maybe I'll just use the rest for the turtle, because this isn't really yarn that I would ever make a garment or a blanket out of, which it's not that you couldn't, I just wouldn't. So yeah, this is the first section of the, I guess it depends how you're looking at it, like the right wing if you're if you're facing the wing. And the beauty of this pattern is that you work the wing and then you take all these ends and snip them and just stuff them, because the back of the wing is a different piece that you attach, and then at the end you only have one end to weave in that you can also use to sew it on. So all these colors and no end weaving. I mean, it really doesn't get much better than that. I'm doing it on a 6.5 millimeter hook, and I'm holding the yarn double, which I lost the hook, so that's why I've only gotten that far on the wing. I have no idea where I put it. And then it also worked out because I have never completed an amigurumi project before. I've started a couple and I always abandon them. And I think because in the past I was trying to make stuff via self-drafting or a YouTube like video tutorial. And so this is my first time with the written pattern, which is a new language. I am so disoriented every time I open this pattern. And it's just the little things, like knitting would say K3 as in knit 3, and then you knit 3. But the crochet patterns say 3SC as in 3 single crochet, which just sounds like a noun to me. It doesn't sound like a verb. And I'm just supposed to infer that those 3 single crochet means 2 single crochet 3 times over the next 3 stitches. But I will say, as messy as my little bit of wing is, it is correct, and it does look like what the pattern says. And the pattern has pictures for like every step, so you can constantly compare. It's really well done and gorgeous. It's colorful. You get I got a lot of stuff. I got the pattern for the wings, the pattern for the bunny. I got a coloring page if you want to plan out your colors, as well as tips on how to pick your colors, and a separate booklet for tips for amigurumi in general. So I got a lot of stuff, and I think the pattern itself is like 28 pages, butterfly wings and bunny included. So it can be done, especially if you already know how to crochet. All the stitches that she uses, I already know how to do like mindlessly. I don't have to look up any of the stitches themselves. I just have to look up what the abbreviations mean, and I just printed out that page. So it comes with an explanation of all the abbreviations, and I just refer to that page. It's not like I have to go YouTube a new skill every step of the way. But I will say, if you don't know how to crochet at all, then you may want to start with something else. I'm a strong believer in beginners can do whatever. So either enter with a lot of patience or maybe try something else first, but it can be done. I feel like I'm a prime example of that because it is working. It's going well. But yeah, that's a lot to say for something I have so little to show, but I'm super excited about it. The wings themselves are gorgeous. They're the first butterflies that actually look like a butterfly and not a crochet butterfly, if that makes sense. It's stunning. It's so good. How she thought of it, I have no idea, but I love it. And I will finish it once I can find my hook. I have no idea. I don't know what happened. Moving on. So the rest of these are kind of itty bitty as well because they're all freshly cast on from this point on. And let's start with this guy. So this is the Korshavn Sweater Man, I think is how you say it. It's by Strict Cafe on Instagram, and her name is Tanya Hodney is how I would say it. If that's wrong, I'm so sorry. So yes, this is a pattern that comes in both men, women, and cardigan and slip over, I think. So if you like the basket weave style, I feel like they're gonna have a format for you. But I chose the man because it's for my husband, and men's patterns are kind of easy to turn into women's if I ever wanted to. So I went with that, and I'm doing it out of this Sandnes Garn Fritidsgarn. Not 100% sure how to say it, but it is 100% Norwegian wool in the color 8260 agave green, which is this, yeah, I feel like agave green is a good way to put it. That's pretty spot on. Very similar to Dusty Artichoke. It's showing up more gray on camera, but I have gotten this far into the body and I realized I did all this ribbing on the wrong size needles. I used the body size instead of the ribbing size. So I can't decide where I want to go from here. If I want to keep going or if I want to frog it. My gauge on my swatch, where's my swatch? Hold on. Okay. My gauge on my swatch was 11 stitches when it was supposed to be 15. And I don't know. I'm just not convinced. This yarn is really, really light. And it's just strange. I've never really worked with yarn this thick and also this rough. This is rustic. Feels exactly like Lion Brand's Fisherman wool, but it's obviously much more expensive. And I don't know. My husband said he doesn't have a problem with it and he likes the color. I just don't know. I don't know. Another thing I'm unsure about is these eyelets are kind of large and it's just not adding up. Like, I'm having a hard time seeing my husband in a sweater with this many holes in it. Not that he can't wear a sweater with this many holes, but I'm not sure how it's gonna flow in the rest of his wardrobe. On the pattern, the man is wearing a navy version with a black t-shirt under, and the eyelets are a lot less visible. But because this color is so light, like even if he were to wear something really dark under it, I still feel like it would be very stark and like visible. I don't know. I think the main thing that I'm not like super amped about this is the fact that the yarn is so rough. I mean, it even like, it makes my finger skin a little sore after knitting for a while. And I think because I knit relatively fast too, like the yarn is really, really rubbing. And I'm just like, how? Like, is he trying to be nice by saying it's not itchy? Is he actually gonna wear it? Or am I gonna put in all this work and he wears it and he's like, oh my god, this is the itchiest thing I've ever worn. Like, this is rough. If you love rustic wool, this will be your cup of tea. I mean, it's so light. Like, look at the drape. It has pretty nice like drape and flow, but it also holds its structure really well. Like, look at that. Look at that. It holds up so nicely. I feel like it would definitely stand the test of time, and it would be so warm and a great like staple workhorse sweater. But something's just not adding up for me. I'm knitting, I cast on his in a size small because he's skinny, but I think I would need to buy a size large amount of yarn because he's really tall and his arms are really long. So I'm anticipating a like kind of mix match of sizes as I'm knitting the pattern. But I'm like, do I want to buy 15 balls of this? It sounds like a lot. Oh, not this. Like, do I want to buy 15 balls of this, or do I just want to go get some Lion Brand Fisherman's wool? So if you have any advice, if you have an opinion on the matter, please let me know, because he does, he likes the stitch pattern, he likes the design, and he likes everything I show him. So does he really like it? That's the question. But yeah, I'm just gonna kind of table it, because I do think if I do move forward with that yarn, which is the recommended yarn, one of the 2 recommended yarns in the pattern, by the way, that's how I even landed on that to begin with. But if I do move forward with that, I will redo the ribbing on the smaller needle size. So yeah, we'll see. I gotta look up what weight the Fisherman's wool is intended for, because I've never used it. I've felt it and I've seen it, but I've never actually used it. So it might be too thin, I'm not sure. I just know it comes in really big skeins, like the big twist, and it's 100% wool as well. Oh, so yes, next is my Hidden Scraps toddler. There's been a lot of hidden scraps going on, so I'm not going to dwell on this for too long. I cast it on my son's so that both my kids can have one, and I did his scrap yarn in a slightly different blue, which is just another scrap yarn I had, so that I'll be able to tell the difference between the kids' hats. So yeah, a lot of the same. And then I also cast on this unnamed design. I've been calling it the flower knot sweater because the cables were inspired by the flower knot socks by Laurel Knits. The cables in the sock are a little different though, because the socks are not ribbed, but it kind of has that same flower knotty vibe. And this is going to be a drop shoulder, so I've gotten this far on the back panel, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I kind of have an idea, but I'm not sure, because like when I think it's gonna be wide enough, it starts to look too small. And essentially, I'm trying to see if I brought the swatch. Oh, I do have it. So the knots are gonna kind of stagger. So even though it looks like I'm close to having, I dropped it. This is a mess. Even though it looks like I'm close to having a panel like wide enough, I think when I start to incorporate these two flower knots right here, it's gonna shrink in. I'm gonna need to go for longer. And then because I need to go for longer, I'm like, is this slope gonna be too long? You know what I mean? So I'm just kind of learning as I go. I'm doing this out of the Rerum Natura Penelope and Berenice, I think is how you say this. And they're both in the same color, which is called Petite Matin. It's this super pretty, like light blue, but it has just enough gray in it that just makes it super wearable and almost a neutral. It's definitely still a blue, as you can see, but it's almost a gray, and I think it just fits into a wardrobe like really seamlessly, which I like. And it is super soft. It is mohair. This mohair is a little different though. So it's 55% super kid mohair, 25% silk, and 25% wool. So in my opinion, it is a little bit more tolerable than the like if it were just all mohair on the silk core. And I love that the core is pretty much the same. Sometimes silk can be like a little bit off, but this blends so seamlessly, and it really truly looks like it was all one yarn almost. But yeah, I blocked this in super hot water again, and it's really soft. I'm super sensitive to mohair specifically. That stuff is so itchy. But this just seemed like the best match. Staying within the brand and choosing the exact same color was just the way I wanted to go with this project. So I'm gonna put up with the mohair, and we'll see how it goes. My camera did something weird, but I think when all is said and done, it's gonna come out fine, because if it doesn't, I'll just frog it until it does come out fine. That's the plan. And then my last cast on is one I'm so excited about, and you've probably heard about it 25 times on this channel. But I finally cast on my pearl sweater, and it may look a little different because when I went to Wool & Company, which is where I like to buy my like foreign brands like Isager and Sandnes Garn, they ran out of coffee, which is this guy. So I had to try mulberry, which is this guy. I mean, I didn't have to, but I had been pondering about this mulberry for a while, and when I went to order a sweater's quantity of coffee and saw that it was sold out, I took that as a sign that like, no, I really need to sit back and try this mulberry. Look at that. I mean, so stunning. They're both just as dark pretty much. This which was the front? The mulberry isn't lighter like whiter, it's lighter like redder, you know, but both achieve that super deep like dark hole vibe, like burgundy-ish vibe I was going for. But this is obviously the chocolate has like a stronger impact than the mulberry, where I feel like this is closer to the original yarn. Or maybe it's not. Maybe this is closer to the original. But my hesitation with the coffee was that it pulled away from the purple, and I wanted to really keep that purple vibe, which I feel like the mulberry does so well. But it is a bit lighter, which I'm okay with in the end. You can see the broken rib a little bit better as well, which kind of makes the labor more worth it, because I was going to knit an entire sweater in broken rib and you weren't going to be able to see almost any of the details. But I will say that this coffee is so stunning. I may do something more basic with it, like the lane loop sweater by Other Loops. I have the pattern and I've never knit it, so I'm thinking maybe I'll do like a chocolate basic stockinette sweater where there's not many details to lose in the darkness. But I'm so excited about this. It is a v-neck pullover raglan style, so again, not super duper far. I've just started the v-neck, and then when you get to the bottom of the V, you connect, and then the rest of the sweater is in the round. So you do have to knit flat for a significant amount of time, but that's pretty much the case with any v-neck. I don't think there's a way to really get around knitting flat if you want that like nice deep V, because nothing connects there, you know, it's a big open space. So yeah, I will say that this is not a hand-holdy pattern. I don't think I'll really ever say something is not beginner friendly, because I just feel like it depends on how determined said beginner is, and you could absolutely accomplish it if you really wanted to. Sorry. But it's one of those patterns where they're like, okay, hold on, somebody's walking in. My dad came home. So yes, it's one of those patterns where they're like, okay, you're gonna do these things and just remember that you're doing it all at the same time, versus like, here's exactly what you're gonna do on every single row, which I prefer, honestly, because sometimes it can get really, really long when people are more descriptive. It can definitely be helpful, especially for beginners, but I don't like to read too much. Anyway, I just say all that to say that this is not necessarily mindless in the beginning. It's going to take some thought, as anything would, with increasing in pattern and increasing in different sections at different rates. The v-neck doesn't increase at the same rate as the raglan lines, but that's also temporary. Once you're done with the v-neck, then everything is on the same pace, and you just have to remember like the broken rib. The broken rib is actually kind of nice because all your increases are knit increases, so it's the same type of increase. But for me, I've just been having trouble remembering on the wrong side row what I just added, if that makes sense. Like, did I just add a knit column or broken column? Because broken rib is like knit columns and garter columns. So that's the only thing, and I added a little bit more difficulty to myself by choosing such a dark color. But I will say, even with it being just slightly lighter than the chocolate, it is a lot easier to see. But yeah, all in all, I'm super excited. Another weird thing, just a little side note, this color is softer than the coffee, which I know can happen with different dyes and stuff. I don't know the exact science behind it, but I think that was the final like selling point for me to make that color shift, because this is super soft. This is really, really soft. I like it a lot. It is a little bit holy because the Woolfolk Tynd, which is the, I didn't even really say what this is. So this is Woolfolk Tynd in the color 20, and Isager Silk Mohair in the color 36, which was called Mulberry on, like, in the store I got it from, but I don't know if that's its real name or if it's just numbers, because it's not written on the actual ball band. So yeah, this combo gave me this fabric, and this is a thinner, is it a thinner? I guess it's kind of a normal fingering, but the two-plyness of it, it's not a very plump and round fingering. I don't know what this means, but like if you were to grab it, I feel like it wouldn't be like a perfect, never mind. Anyways, that is all of my current projects. The only other thing, I do have one more thing that is not fiber arts related, but I'm so excited about it. I feel like I just have to show you. So this is my giant bowl. I did not throw this myself. This is your general, like, a giant bowl that you can get at those pottery painting places. And my local one allows you to take your projects home if you don't want to work on it in the store, in the place. So yes, I got this giant bowl because my parents' house has this it has like a really similar bowl, and we put all our produce and stuff in it, and in our house in California we did the same thing. So I really want to have like our personal family, me, my husband, and our kids, a produce bowl for our kitchen, and it's going to be this white. It is painted, you can't tell, but it's like this white, and it'll have all these tiny colorful like pastel-y type speckles, and I want to put the kids' hands on it, but I'm torn between, do I want them on the outside or the inside? Because when you have it on the counter, I feel like the part that you see when you're standing over it is the inside more, and their little hands and feet are so tiny and so cute that I just want to look at them all the time, you know what I mean? And I want to have them in a format that will last forever and ever and ever. So if you have any opinions as to where I should put these, or where I should put their handprints and footprints, please comment down below and let me know, because I'm so indecisive and I need lots of help. I also can't decide if I want to do them in black or in a super light color. Like I said, the background's gonna be white, so pretty much anything will show up. But I brought a light yellow, a light green, and a light, like, really sky blue. And my goal in keeping everything light is that I want it to match any potential kitchen that we may have. So yeah, that's kind of the overall theme. I want a very sentimental place to put all of our apples and bananas, and I want it to somewhat match, but I'm also okay if it's a little bit tacky because of the sentimental value it'll carry. So yeah, that's just another little side project I have going, and that is really and truly it. So if you've made it this far into this long ass video, you're the best, and I rock with you so heavy. If you have it in your heart to like and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. And I would also like to hear a little bit more about what other types of content y'all like to see, like my planner, how I'm planning out my projects and keeping track of anything, or like a day in the life, or, you know, the mom side of things. I have no idea. I'm also perfectly fine with like just doing a podcast. If you're like, I hate every type of content outside of your podcast, let me know that too, because these are also kind of the most fun. So if I just did all podcasts, I wouldn't hate that either. But I just want to hear more of what y'all want from me. And yeah, I would love to cater more towards your desires to a certain extent, because for the most part, I'm gonna do what I want to do. So yeah, again, thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it so much, and I will catch you in the next one.